Good evening, you're watching The Buck Stops Here and I'm Barkha Dutt. On the program this evening, we're taking a hard look at what is the future of Air India. Does it even have one? We're also looking at what led to this crisis. The crisis, of course, most recently triggered by pilots who have refused to call off their strike. That's right. That's our special focus on the program today. As the strike by Air India pilots enters its 7th day, 100 crore rupees have already been lost and more than 70 pilots have been sacked. The government seems in no mood to negotiate and the losses are piling up. The Maharaja, once the premium face of Indian aviation, is now lying on life support, a ventilator provided to it by taxpayers' money. The aviation minister, of course, has declared that there is no need at all for a national carrier, that those days are now long past. What does that say for the future of Air India? We're looking back tonight to look ahead and asking a fundamental question. Who killed Air India? And is Air India dead or can it be brought back to life? We'll have players on all sides of the divide of this debate. But let's begin right away with somebody who spoke to us earlier, somebody who controls what may happen next, Aviation Minister Ajit Singh, our newsmaker on The Buck Stops Here. Mr. Ajit Singh, today we have seen the striking pilots of Air India, perhaps for the first time, trying to reach out to you. Some of their representatives even landed up at your doorstep, at your residence. You later said that they came without an appointment. Do you see this as a sign of their softening? And are you willing to take their olive branch? Are you willing to talk to them, Mr. Ajit Singh?
No, see, they came, but I wasn't aware, and they saw so many TV people here, so they went away. See, as an individual, anybody is welcome here.
Okay, but are you willing
So I don't know what's that sign of.
But are you willing to talk to them?
Listen, not as a representative of a union which has been de-recognized. As an individual, as pilot, anybody is welcome.
But you're making it very clear that you're not willing to talk to them as a union. You're only willing to meet them as individuals. It's a very clear, a very tough statement. You've taken the position that this is a de-recognized union. You will not be talking to them. So what is the basic minimum demand that you and your ministry is placing on the Air India pilots to bring them back to the dialogue table, a dialogue table that you would be willing to join?
See, there are no demands. Let's face it, they went on a strike, which has been termed illegal by High Court. Their pilots have been reporting sick when they are not sick. All the 4 demands they had, now everybody recognizes, including them, that there is no demand really. One demand they had about the Dreamliner pilots, that the Supreme Court has given an interim judgment and we have to wait for their final judgment. The second thing, they wanted some dues paid, which the management has agreed. Third is they want their notional promotion instead of 10 years in 6 years, which will be handled by the Dharmadhikari report. That's why that committee was formed. Their report is with us, and we'll be discussing with not only them, other unions also within the next 1 or 2 months. So they really have no demand. So why the strike is going on? All we are asking is, please come back to work, do your job, which is ferrying the passengers, and we are willing to talk on any issue.
So your position clearly, Ajit Singh, seems to be that for anything to move ahead, the striking pilots have to first unconditionally return to work. Now, suppose this doesn't happen. Suppose the stalemate doesn't break. If the need arises, will you be willing to stop and scrap all the international routes that Air India flies? And what would you do with all the aircraft then?
We are looking at that. We are working on that. And see, what we are working on is the long-term revival of the Air India. And I know all these problems will happen. This is not the first one. I anticipate when we try to implement Dharmadhikari report, a lot of questions will come up. But if Air India has to survive, let me make it clear that 30,000 crore will not help. Because Air India has to become competitive with the other players in this game. So the unions and the employees have to realize it, that they have a stake in Air India's survival.
Okay.
If Air India doesn't survive, they won't have any jobs.
Fair enough, but you are on record, Ajit Singh, as having agreed with the fact that the merger that brought erstwhile Indian Airlines and Air India into one entity is something that did not go well, that it was part of the problem instead of being part of the solution. The parliamentary panel headed by Sitaram Yechuri was in agreement on the fact that this was a merger that was ill-conceived, that was not planned. Now, the striking pilots say this isn't just about Indian Airlines or former Indian Airlines pilots being allowed onto the Dreamliner. This is about career progression. This is about the absence of structural institutions post the merger. Given that you agree that the merger was poorly planned, do you believe there's any merit to their argument that they're not being allowed, for example, on the aircraft that are flown by the Indian airline pilots or the former Indian airline pilots? Do you believe that they have a point? Do you acknowledge that the merger is actually the beginning of this crisis?
Well, let's face it, in retrospect, it seems that the way merger was planned, and then it was not completed. That has caused problems. We all know that. And pilots also know that 70% integration has taken place. Only the HR issues are remain, and that's exactly what the Dharmadhikari report addresses. That report is with the government, and we are going to discuss it with them. So now taking that excuse, I don't think that's just an excuse, really.
But why is it an excuse if you as the aviation minister agree that this was a merger that was poorly planned and executed? Why is it an excuse then?
I said we are saying it that in retrospect, you can say that what were the circumstances. And let's face it, it didn't work out. As I said, 70% of integration has taken place. Only HR issues are remaining, which Dharmadhikari report has addressed. So let's discuss those.
So the merger didn't work out. You agree with that, but you also think a demerger, I guess, is out of the question. There's no turning back. The clock is there.
I think that will take away another 4 or 5 years now. See, after 70% integration. And let them at least look, if the Dharmadhikari report addresses their grievances. See, I know and you know that these both Indian Airlines and Air India had different promotion policies, different pay scales, and let's face it, they had different cultures. But now it has happened, and only thing remaining is that how their progression path would be, how we can, not only engineers, the cabin crew, the engineers, how can they have the rationalized pay scales? All those questions are there. Now that everything is done, all we have to do is discuss with them. So at this point in time, making that as an excuse, I don't think that's reasonable.
Do you have the NDTV Profit app? All the markets, all the news and your own homemade, ready-made portfolio available there for you.
We will right now answer what you should sell, what you should buy when markets are down.
Download at ndtvprofit.com/apps. Get the best app from the channel you trust.